Hello everyone, this is Walter from Creative Media Vault, and I am doing my second podcast of the day. So let me see if I can move my chair up a little bit, kind of adjust the angle here. Okay, so I've just started doing podcast, and I think it's kind of fun. But I'm not used to doing live streams, so I'm a little bit nervous about this one. However, I've decided to jump into this for a few reasons. And one of them is I'm a huge otaku, huge anime fan. And there's been kind of a debate going on about the new Dragon Ball Super series that's been that's been released, last year. And don't get me wrong, this is a very, very good series, an awesome series. So, so I think they are doing that. The series has a lot of potential. But what I've been doing is I've been kind of looking online and following some of the videos on YouTube, and there's a lot of debate as to where this series is going to be going and what the whole purpose of it is. So what I am going to do is I'm going to kind of throw a theory out there. So a lot of people are like, well, Dragon Ball Super is pretty good, but what are they trying to do with this, and why did they make it? Why did they release it all of a sudden, right? And I'm just going to go ahead and put it out there. I think that the entire purpose of this new Dragon Ball anime is to tie up loose ends, not only tie up some loose ends, and not only expand the story, but I really do believe that Dragon Ball Super is going to lead into a crossover into the Dragon Ball Xenoverse video game series. And I know people who have played Xenoverse and people, or even people who may not be so familiar with it are like, what? That's not possible. But I want you to hear me out. Okay, so I have some notes here because I was actually making a blog post on this, and it got to be really, really, really long. So I'm like, I should just do a video. So I'm gonna be referring to my notes over here and staring at so I'm not just staring at my Darth Vader cup. But what I think is here are some of the key points that I think are relevant for this argument, and feel free to disagree with me all you want. But if you're gonna disagree with me, I want you to come up with a better theory and show me why. So, number one is Xeno. So, one of the main characters of Dragon Ball Xenoverse, one of the main characters of Dragon Ball Super anime is this cute little kid, blue and purple guy named Xeno, right? So, in Japanese we call him Xeno-sama. In the US version they call him the Omni King or something, right? But this little kid is basically the most powerful being in the universe as we know right now in the anime, right? But if you'll notice, I think Xeno is pretty much like a little miniature mini-me god of destruction. Not just a god of destruction, the god of destruction. Because if you've been following the anime and you notice, we've never seen Xeno create anything, but he can destroy anything. I mean, this guy has wiped out planets just by blowing on them, or just by touching them. He's wiped out an entire universe. So, and everybody in the Dragon Ball universe is scared of this little kid, right? That's because I think that he is the top god of destruction. And it would kind of make sense because that's all we've seen him do is just destroy stuff. And even the other gods of destruction are scared of him, like Beerus, right? So I think Xeno is going to play a very key element in this storyline because he's so powerful. And but we've only seen him destroy stuff. We've never seen him create anything, and that's because I think he can't. So let's see, what has he destroyed? Even when and this is kind of relevant because especially when it comes to anime and Japanese or Oriental culture in general, there tends to be a focus on balance, right? So there's always the yin and the yang, the light and dark and stuff like that. So if Xeno is the god of destruction, then he has to have a counterpart that can create. And we'll get into this a little bit later, but we've seen some creation by the angels already. So I think that is one of the key elements. Let's see. So balance must be maintained. Xeno can destroy, but he can't create that we know of so far. And but one person who can create is the Great Priest, and we'll talk about him in a little bit. And the other kind of giveaway for this crossover thing is Xeno's name. So, in the English version, they call him the Omni King, which doesn't make any sense to me, but they call him the Omni King. In the Japanese version, his name is Xeno-sama. right? So, but it's spelled with a Z, I think. However, I think that they did that intentionally to throw people off because, like, Xeno can also be spelled with an X, right? As in Xenoverse. And I know people are like, well, it's just a name and stuff like that. But if you'll notice in the anime, when you look at little Xeno's clothes, he has an X pattern on his chest, right? So he's just rocking like some X gear. And I don't think a lot of people have really paid attention to that or noticed that. But his name and the clothes that he's wearing, like, are basically kind of synonymous with Xenoverse because he's the god. He's the main god of a universe. So I think that he is the key point and key element for starting the Xenoverse games. So we'll get into that a little bit more. And I think the catalyst for this Xenoverse creation, not only had to do with Xeno-sama himself, you know, the little kid, but also Future Trunks. So, Future Trunks has been around for a long time, even in the Dragon Ball. We were first introduced to him in the Dragon Ball Z series, right? When he traveled back in time because, like, to stop to stop Goku from dying so that he could fight Cell. So, Trunks has kind of pulled Marty McFly quite a few times in the Dragon Ball universe, right? But when it came to Dragon Ball Z, we never actually got a chance to see the consequences of him traveling back and forth through time. So he traveled back in time, Cell traveled back in time, he traveled like forward in time to go home. So during Dragon Ball Z, this was all like kind of standard. Well, people could travel back and forth in time using Bulma's time machine, but you know, like there was never anything to say that what the effect of that would be. So what I'm thinking is that because of Future Trunks traveling back and forth through time, this kind of created like a little bit of a DC Universe type flashpoint in the Dragon Ball universe. So say for example, just theoretically, that all of the universes were connected at one time. And then Future Trunks and Cell make their trips back in time and shatter the universes into the one that we're seeing now in Dragon Ball Xenoverse. Well, if the universes were shattered, that means that the angels would probably have to split up to keep watch over each universe now, right? So I think that Future Trunks plays a major role in the developments of the story for Dragon Ball Super, even more so than we know right now, because I think that he's the cause of what's going to happen to kind of lead into the Xenoverse game storyline. And I know that all seems like very, like, you know, well, it's a little bit too Back to the Future-ish. However, there are some other key points with Future Trunks that we need to notice. So, let's see. The Future Trunks and Mai. So, remember, like, we've never seen any consequences for Trunks traveling back in time during the Dragon Ball Z segment. However, as soon as Dragon Ball Super started, Beerus and Whis started talking about consequences. So they're like, time travel is taboo, only the kites are allowed to do it, and if you do it, something bad is going to happen. We haven't seen what the bad stuff is yet. But Beerus and Whis seem to be very aware that there are negative consequences for this that nobody knows about yet. So I think Future Trunks stirred up like a little bucket of stuff when he traveled back, right? So I would say like those consequences are probably what we're going to start seeing in Dragon Ball Super. Now, considering the Flashpoint, you know, like similarities and stuff like that, it would make comics have like regularly done this, so it wouldn't make a lot of sense for them to do something like that in Dragon Ball, especially when we start considering the state of Dragon Ball later. So also, let's see, when it comes to Xeno again, like the whole reason that that Trunks traveled back in time was because, well, Goku Black was around in the future, destroying and killing everybody, right? So he had to travel back in time again. Like there goes that timeline snap. So he traveled back in time to find Goku and Vegeta because he thought that they were the strongest ones to be able to beat Goku Black and Zamasu. However, what happened is they did get strong enough, but Zamasu became too powerful that even Goku couldn't defeat him. So how did they beat Zamasu? Well, the way they beat him is Goku basically got Xeno-sama from that time period and from that universe to wipe everything. So little Xeno showed up, didn't like Zamus's attitude, and completely not just destroyed him and the Earth. He wiped the entire universe. I mean, completely gone. It's like a whiteboard and a eraser. Like there's just nothing there anymore, right? So you have to remember that Xeno wiped an entire universe to where there was no space. And the reason that this is relevant is because when Xeno wiped the universe, Goku and them managed to escape back to the past so that they didn't get wiped with it. But Goku was a little bit worried, so he went back to the future, and he just saw little Xeno there, like in space, chilling by himself. You know, with nowhere to go, like no friends, no nothing. Like there's not even a banana floating around because he wiped that too. So Goku brought little Xeno back to the present, I guess, and that's why we have like two little Xenos kind of playing with themselves now, right? But what did this mean for future Trunks and Mai, who went back to the future? So a lot of the debate is like, well, what happened to future Trunks and Mai? And that's a very good question because Bulma's time machine only allows them to go back and forth to the future, right? It doesn't allow for them, as we know it right now, it doesn't allow for them to like completely go skip timelines or like go to an alternate timeline. So that means that when future Trunks and Mai travel to the future, they travel back to a blank future with nothing there because Xeno wiped it. So the only thing they had were like Trunks, Mai, a time machine, and all of the tech that Bulma gave them to rebuild like their future world, which didn't exist anymore. So why is this relevant to the Xenoverse crossover? For those of you who've played the Xenoverse games, you should know this. When you start playing the Xenoverse game, you'll notice that there is no world. Basically, it's all wiped. It's all clean. The only thing there is Trunks, the time machine, and the time vault. And the time vault is like the little island sitting in the middle of nothing that the time cops and time patrol people can come to in order to get their assignments, right? Otherwise, there's nothing else there. The reason there's nothing else there is because I think that is the universe that Xeno wiped to get rid of Zamus. So when Trunks and Mai go to the future, I think they basically became the Adam and Eve of that universe. And you have to look at the benefits of this for the Xenoverse game and for the Dragon Ball Super storyline. Because with the Dragon Ball Super storyline, with Dragon Ball Xenoverse, Trunks is now sitting in a future with no angels, no destruction gods, no Xeno, because that Xeno is in this universe. So he's basically sitting in a special spot by himself where he can and he has a time machine, so he can oversee all of the universes, all the multiverses, and the timeline with no interference at all, right? So that's another like a big key thing for this. Now, and it doesn't really say what happens to Mai, but for Trunks, that could be where he actually starts playing his role as a time patrol, right? Because, well, what else is he gonna do? He's got no friends, he got no mall or nothing to go to. So, like, just watching the timeline, and I think this is very relevant. So I'm thinking that since I think I'm going out on a limb, but I'm thinking that maybe Trunks was also trained by the Time Patrol, by Whis or by one of the other angels, right? To be a Time Patrol like person. And the reason for this is because, like, I think the angels would have blamed him for being the first one to travel back in time and shattering the universes. So maybe with Whis, who we'll definitely get into a little bit later, Whis is like, hey, you screwed this up. You broke the timeline when you came back, to keep Goku from dying for fighting Cell. So this is your responsibility, and you're in the perfect place, without the same rules, regulations, and consequences that the rest of the universes have. You are the Time Patrol, so fix this shit, right? So I think that's kind of where future Trunks will play a major role in the future. Now, that was a little bit long for Xeno and future Trunks. And like I said, keep in mind, future Trunks still has access to Bulma's equipment, right? So he can build a world using that, and give it pretty much a genius himself. So, so the Xenoverse city is very much like the universe that Xeno wiped, and I think Trunks and Mai just rebuilt it, and it will serve its purpose later. Now, another key person that we have to look at for this argument of Dragon Ball Super becoming Dragon Ball Xenoverse later is Son Goku, right? And Son Goku, if you will notice, the main plot of the Dragon Ball Xenoverse games is somebody's trying to go back, well, not somebody, everybody's trying to go back in time and kill Son Goku, or stop him, or keep him from becoming like what he's going to be. So that means that Son Goku has either really done something stupid to piss people off, or has become very powerful, or has somehow become a threat to somebody important, right? And I think it's probably the latter. Now, there's a lot of theories going around that, like, Son Goku is becoming evil in Dragon Ball Super. I don't think he's becoming evil. I don't think we're going to see an evil Goku. But I think we're going to see somebody, a Goku, that everybody is afraid of for a reason. And we're already starting to see that in Dragon Ball Super, because the attitude, the Goku that we're seeing right now is a lot more arrogant, is a lot more like nonchalant when it comes to getting his friends in trouble. Does not care if the universe gets destroyed as long as he can have a good fight. So he's becoming a lot more aggressive and a lot more like kind of powerful, and just not really caring so much as he used to in the old series. But the fact that he's becoming powerful, I think that's kind of what's scaring everybody around him. So in Dragon Ball Super, he is actually becoming like a danger. And people in other universes are targeting him right now because they know that his way of thinking and his power level is dangerous, right? And it's going to have some kind of consequences. So in Xenoverse, people like had the same attitude. They're like, we must kill Son Goku. The question is why? Probably because he was like he did something become a threat, and his power, it had something to do with it, right? So those similarities between Super and Xenoverse, where everybody has the same goal of getting rid of Son Goku, that's also a telltale sign that that's where this is going to go in the future. Let's see. So Goku is going to do something or piss somebody off or become so powerful he's going to have a huge impact in the multiverse, right? And like another thing that we can look at for Son Goku is, well, his clothes. Now, Goku, ever since the time he was a kid, this kid loved orange. I mean, like, every time you see Son Goku, he's always wearing orange. I mean, from the time he got his diaper was orange, basically. I mean, they just didn't have ink to, like, you know, like ink to color it in the manga, but that shit was orange, right? We just didn't know it at the time. But from the time he was a kid, he's always been wearing an orange dogi with blue boots, right? Those are his signature colors. Another thing is that if you'll notice, whenever he's training under somebody, he always keeps his master's logo or his dojo's logo, right? So when he was training with Kame Sennin, like he had the Kame Sennin like logo on his back, right? And when he got strong enough to train himself to where he didn't need a master, he was wearing his own logo. It was like, I'm go. I don't need a master, right? But look at the end of Dragon Ball Z after the Buu Saga. Now Goku, he's like pretty nonchalant. He's kind of stupid sometimes, but he tends to do stuff. He's a man of habit, and he tends to do stuff for a reason. So he doesn't change unless he has a good reason to. So at the end of Dragon Ball Z, 20 years ago, right? I think that, we saw that Goku's dogi in his last fight had changed, right? And not only did it change, but he was wearing blue, white, and orange, right? And this was during his fight with Ubu. Now, like, the key thing about that is that when he fought with Ubu, yes, he was wearing different colors, so we knew something with him had changed, but we didn't know what. And the reason why is because he never showed how powerful he actually was. During the fight with Ubu, if you'll recall, he didn't power up at all, right? The only thing he did was like fly in the air, and Ubu was like, "Ooh, wow!" And then like at the end of Dragon Ball, Ubu jumps on his back, and they just fly off into where God knows where. But like, we never saw how powerful Goku was at that time. So, according to my theory, he could have been Super Saiyajin Blue at that time when he met Ubu. right? And I'll explain that a little bit later because we're going to have to get rid of some of the old Dragon Ball history that's out there, that's been out there for the past 20 years. But like I said, we don't know how strong Goku was at that time. And we don't know why he changed his colors, but his colors are the same colors that the angels are wearing. So right now, who is he training with in Dragon Ball Super? He's training with Whis, right? Who's one of the angels, right? So I think that Goku, like Trunks, was trained by the angels, probably Whis, in the future. And that's why he changed the color of his Dogi. So when he met Ubu, I bet he was already Super Saiyajin 4, or Super Saiyajin Blue, or beyond. We just never got a chance to see it. So that's another kind of telltale sign, because Goku would never ever change his colors unless he had a reason to, and unless he was training under somebody who was wearing those colors, right? So that's another telltale sign. And let's see what else. I took a lot of notes on this. So the universes hate Goku because they're afraid of him, and he's become a threat to somebody. He's also changed his clothes. Now that brings us up to the Grand Priest, right? So Goku has become, in the Xenoverse games, Goku has obviously become a threat to somebody. He's dangerous. They need him eliminated before something can happen, right? So that brings us to the Grand Priest, the guy who sits beside Zeno-sama. So Zeno-sama destroys. The Grand Priest, though, can create. Out of everybody in Dragon Ball Super, the Grand Priest is the only one that we have seen that has the power to create. That's why Zeno-sama isn't building the battle arena that they're using for the Tournament of Power, because I don't think he can. The Grand Priest is his counterpart who can create. And as everybody is kind of starting to figure out, the Grand Priest doesn't seem to be a nice guy. He looks like he's got sinister intentions, so this guy has a plan, him and the other angels. So I think that the Grand Priest and the other angels, have a plot going against Zeno. But they needed to wait for something to happen. They needed to wait for the balance to be upset, right? So Trunks already destroyed the balance first, in my opinion, when he shattered the universe by traveling back in time. But that still wasn't enough for the angels to do what they needed to do. They need to get rid of Zeno-sama. So the way of getting rid of Zeno-sama, there had to be a great enough balance that's going to make him less powerful than he actually is, right? And I think when Goku went to the future to bring back the other Zeno-sama, because there are two in the same universe right now, that's what the angels were looking for, right? So the Grand Priest, he's like, okay, now Zeno-sama's off balance, he's weakened or whatever, the balance is broken. So now we can make our move. And I think this is kind of what he's been waiting for. That's why he helped to arrange the Tournament of Power and is manipulating Zeno-sama into eliminating universes. Because I think the Grand Priest's grand plan is to reunite all of the universes that Trunks broke. So he's planning to reunite them without Zeno-sama and the God of Destruction in order to rebuild the universe, this one universe, this reunited universe, in his image, right? It would make perfect sense because he's a creator, right? But he cannot create what he wants as long as Zeno-sama's around to destroy it, right? So that's why I think, that's what I think his grand scheme is. And not just him, but I think all of his family is in on it too. So we know that one of his sons seems to be pretty evil because, when Universe 7 or Universe 9 got eliminated, they completely wiped that entire universe. And this guy was sitting over here, seems like, I'm glad it wasn't me. And he was smiling, right? Did not care that his universe got eliminated. As a matter of fact, it looked like that's what he was planning. So all of the angels, I think, in Dragon Ball Super are evil, except Whis. Now, I think that Whis is actually very, very wise. One, because of his name, Whis, wise. Another one is because he seems to be ahead of the game. So I think he knows what his father is planning, but I also think he's taking precautions. Why else would he be training Goku and Vegeta and to get God level powers, right? There's no other reason for him to. Whis does not do anything unless he has a reason to do it. It's not just a game for him. So I think he knows what his family is planning. He knows what the other angels have going on. He knows that they're planning to get rid of or possibly kill Zeno-sama, thereby creating Xenoverse, right? So once Zeno is gone and the Grand Priest can take over, I think Zeno-sama's sacrifice will be the beginning of Dragon Ball Xenoverse because of the name Zeno. And also, I think Whis does not want this to happen. However, like Zeno-sama is like the god of destruction, right? And he's a top level guy. None of the other destruction gods can compete with him in power. So Beerus would not stand a chance against Zeno-sama. That's why all of the other destruction gods are scared of him. At the same time, Beerus would not be strong enough to stand up against the Grand Priest either, because the Grand Priest and Zeno-sama should be almost equal in power when it comes to destruction and creation, right? So if Beerus and Whis went up against the Grand Priest by themselves, it wouldn't even be a contest. And Whis knows this. So that's why he's taking Goku and Vegeta under his wing, because he needs to train people who can become stronger than him and Beerus in order to stop or handle what's coming. And if you think about it, it actually makes a lot of sense, right? Because and this is how it can kind of roll over into the Xenoverse. So, say for example, like Tournament of Power ends, like Zeno-sama, I don't think the Grand Priest can destroy as much. So he's using Zeno to destroy all of the other universes and just wipe them out, right? So that they can easily reconnect everything, right? So after Zeno has done his job, the angels plan on getting rid of this guy. They're like, we're done with this kid, man. So they're planning on assassinating him or something, right? Whis knows this, but he's not able to stop them at the moment. So once the angels move their plan into action and get rid of Zeno-sama, there's going to be a fight between like Whis, his father, the other angels, probably Beerus, and they're not going to stand a chance. But Goku and Vegeta will be their and possibly the other Z fighters will be the way that they're able to fight back. So like that kind of leads into why Xenoverse could possibly be the next stop for Dragon Ball Super, because if the angels get their asses whipped by Goku and Vegeta, which they're not expecting because they don't know that Whis has actually trained them. They're starting to find out that they have god level powers now, right? Because Goku keeps on showing it off, right? But they don't really know the extent of their power. However, and Whis might be doing this as a deterrent. However, if the angels cannot beat Goku and Vegeta, or if the Goku and Vegeta are strong enough to actually kill the Grand Priest or defeat him, then the Grand Priest is smart enough to know that the next logical step is to go back in time, because we already know that time travel is a factor, and we also know that the angels have the ability to time travel, right? Because Whis has done it before to like restore Earth after Frieza blew it up, right? So if the Grand Priest's plan doesn't work, I think he's going to be like, okay, we need to get rid of these guys before they can get this powerful, before they can be trained by Whis, right? And that would take us back to the Xenoverse storyline, where the Time Patrol and all these people are going back to try to kill Goku and Vegeta or the Z fighters before they can become powerful enough to stop them. And Trunks and Whis and their team is actually trying to prevent this from happening, right? So I think that's kind of where we're going with this in Dragon Ball Super plotline wise. Now, another thing that I do like about Dragon Ball Super, and another reason why I think this is going to lead into Xenoverse, is from a marketing perspective, right? So from a marketing perspective, Dragon Ball Z ended about 20 years ago, over 20 years ago, I think, like 1986 or something like that. And then we had to wait for a while, and then they came out with Dragon Ball GT. But I think Bandai has finally realized that they kind of screwed themselves with Dragon Ball Z. So the first Dragon Ball, awesome series when Goku was a little kid running around with a little extension bow and shit like that, beating people up. Great series. Dragon Ball Z, awesome series, like lots of potential, many power-ups. I mean, it's like every guy wanted to be like a Super Saiyan, right? However, from a marketing perspective, Dragon Ball Z wasn't exactly the smartest move that Bandai could have made at the time. Or that the company could have made at the time. I forgot who owned it. But because what they did is they kind of shot themselves in the foot when it came to the Saiyans. So until then, Dragon Ball had a cast, right? We had Yamcha, we had Bulma, we had the Pervy Sennin and stuff like that. And so we had a cast of relevant characters. But once the Saiyans came, they kind of took over the entire show. So it got to a point where the only two relevant characters were Goku and Vegeta, because these guys were so OP, they were so overpowered that nothing could stop them. So that means that other characters like Piccolo, Krillin, Yamcha, and like all of the other characters just kind of got left in the dust. Even new characters that they introduced, and this became a bad thing because, like, from merchandising perspective, who wants a picture of Krillin, right? So even though they had a good cast, like they made the rest of the cast completely unmarketable by hyping up the Saiyans too much. So and that's why Dragon Ball kind of got a little bit boring towards the end, because like the other characters were just standing there doing nothing because they couldn't do anything, because any new enemy that came up would have been too strong for them, and it was left up to like Gohan or Goku or Vegeta to deal with them. So the rest of the characters, like Piccolo, I remember like 90% of his screen time after after the Namek saga, with him standing around doing this, uh, wanting to help but being completely unable to, and just watching the Saiyans fight, and that's boring as shit. So like because of this, like marketability and the merchandising of other characters in the Dragon Ball series was non-existent, because nobody wanted the other characters. They only wanted, like, okay, Super Saiyan 2, Super Saiyan 3, and like Goku and Vegeta. So they severely like limited their marketing ability with that. And so that's one, and that happened like what, 20 years ago, right? Then like, so Dragon Ball, from a marketing perspective, like and storyline perspective, after the Buu saga, Dragon Ball stopped, right? There was no progression. So they were selling the same T-shirts over and over and over and over again for 20 years, because there was like there was nothing new to add to it. And so somebody finally came up to, like, okay, well, this kind of sucks. We can't market the other characters. We're kind of stopped here. So why don't we make Dragon Ball GT? Now, GT was a disaster, right? It was like one of the dumbest moves that they could have made for Dragon Ball. And they thought it would breathe new life into it, but they completely messed it up, because they they started off, and they started off with Goku, and they're like, okay, this guy is so overpowered from Dragon Ball Z. We have to do something. So, in order to make him weak, to make him relevant again, they actually had to turn him into a kid, because there were at that point there were no enemies that he couldn't defeat. So they turned him into a kid, and then they had his granddaughter there, Pan. But they did not maximize her potential either, because she never got a chance to reach Super Saiyan, which is the whole reason why everybody was watching the damn show. So we know that Goku can go Super Saiyan. We were waiting for it to see like some character development with Trunks and Pan, and maybe some other characters pop up, but that didn't happen. So they relied, once again, they started relying on Goku and Vegeta to carry the show. And so that's why like Dragon Ball GT is barely memorable to anybody, because nothing happened. It was just Dragon Ball Z all over again with the Goku as a kid. The only good thing that came out of Dragon Ball GT was Super Saiyan 4, right? Do you remember any of the other characters? No. Baby was a pushover. Even the Omega Shenron. I mean, like, he was there, and he was a bad guy, but, at the end of the day, you don't really care so much about him. From a marketing perspective, the only relevant merchandise that came out of that was the new Super Saiyan form, Super Saiyan 4. However, even then, they kind of screwed themselves. So, because everybody wanted Super Saiyan 4, and because the storyline had no progression or nowhere to go, that became the end of the road for Dragon Ball. It's like, Goku has reached the ultimate level, Super Saiyan 4. Well, who's he gonna fight? Well, he's already beat everybody. The Dragon Balls are like no more, and he didn't manage to absorb those. So this guy's basically a walking god phantom with nothing to do. And that killed Dragon Ball, right? So I think that Bandai Namco finally realized this, and they're like, Dragon Ball cannot grow anymore. There's no space in the universe for it to grow anymore. So, in order to fix that problem, they created Dragon Ball Super. Now, the whole purpose of Super, I believe, is to, one, kill Dragon Ball GT and get rid of that shit. They're like, okay, we screwed up. Super Saiyan 4 looked pretty cool, but there's nowhere else to go with this. So that's why when Super started, they took it back to right after the Majin Buu saga, right? Before Goku could obtain that Super Saiyan 4. So now Super Saiyan 4 doesn't exist, right? They had to retcon that. So I think and I think that was a very smart move because since they're taking it back to after the Majin Buu saga, one, Super Saiyan 4 is gone, so that is not the ultimate level. Two, they started being able to introduce characters that could challenge Goku. So we started with Beerus, who was a god who beat Goku, which had never really happened before. And then we saw the universe starting to expand from there. So that gave Goku and Vegeta a new type of challenge. Another thing is, this is not only good for Goku and Vegeta, but it also leaves room for expansion of the other characters in the Dragon Ball universe, such as Krillin, Piccolo, Yamcha. He's still out, but even a lot of the characters that we actually like that never saw any action in Dragon Ball Z, or like poor Piccolo was killed off in Dragon Ball GT. Now these guys get to actually come back and show what they can do. So if you'll notice in Dragon Ball Super, we've seen some pretty amazing stuff already because we have seen not only Goku get his ass kicked by people that are not on Earth, like the gods and stuff, we've actually seen him getting beaten by his own teammates because they know his weaknesses. He's been beaten by Krillin, he's been beaten by Majin Buu, which never would have happened in Dragon Ball Z. So they're by taking it back and by kind of retconning a lot of the stuff that happened in Dragon Ball GT, they've actually given these other characters a very good opportunity to shine, which we actually saw in Fukatsu no F, the resurrection of Frieza, right? Resurrection of Frieza, if you'll notice, Goku and Vegeta were not in there for almost half of the movie because Bandai Namco and the people who produced it realized that these other characters were actually very well loved and needed the extra screen time to show some growth. And so that was a very smart move. Now, not only are we dealing with threats on Earth, we're also dealing with threats in the universe. So we've got gods, we have angels, and Goku is fighting in a tournament of power right now. But we know, and we've seen with our own eyes, that he is not the strongest being out there anymore, right? So this adds exactly what Dragon Ball needed: a level of excitement and a level of character development because Goku is getting beaten and his weaknesses are being exposed. The same for Vegeta, right? And some of these other characters in the other universe, like the Pride Troopers, they can actually keep up with these guys in hand-to-hand combat. So it's not Goku and Vegeta are so overpowered anymore because it doesn't exist right now. They will get overpowered in the future, surely, but right now there are people who can take them out, and that's what Dragon Ball actually needed. So that leads back into Xenoverse because right now during the tournament of power that we're seeing on TV, we're being introduced to new Saiyans, new races of people, new aliens, and new gods that can kick the shit out of these two. If you look at Dragon Ball Xenoverse, we're seeing the same thing. So in Dragon Ball Xenoverse game, there are other races, there are other people who are stronger than Goku and Vegeta. So I think Bandai Namco needed to roll everything back, needed to get rid of Dragon Ball GT somehow, and so that they could actually start expanding the Dragon Ball universe because it was dead before. And another thing, like I said, from a marketing perspective, not only is this good for the characters in the Dragon Ball universe, it's also good for Bandai Namco because now this gives them a way to expand and branch out. So we don't have to just fight enemies on Earth. We can fight enemies in different universes, which is what we're doing now. We can fight enemies across time, which we did with Goku Black and Zamasu, right? So this gives them the ability to market new power levels for our current characters like Piccolo and Krillin and the androids and stuff like that, who everybody wanted to see get powered up anyway. So we get to see that. We get to see new Saiyan levels. And then we get to see new enemies, new Saiyans, new people from all over the universe that Goku and Vegeta have to fight. And we have a big bad guy, the Grand Priest, who is basically manipulating and controlling everything for a reason, who's definitely going to try to get rid of Xeno-sama. And so I think the similarities between Dragon Ball Super and Dragon Ball Xenoverse are very, very plain to see. So from a marketing perspective, Bandai Namco has not been able to market Dragon Ball Z and Dragon Ball GT for a very long time. because they were dead. There was nothing but old merchandise. Hey, you want a Goku Super Saiyan 3 shirt? I mean, that, like, he was Super Saiyan 3 in like 1988 or something, right? So they had nowhere to go. So by creating Dragon Ball Super, now they have something else to do and something else to add. So from a marketing perspective, they've been, if you'll notice, Bandai Namco has been hyping up the Dragon Ball Xenoverse games and Dragon Ball Heroes, which is another kind of like universe where we have new Saiyans, new aliens, new people. Everybody's trying to kill Goku and Vegeta. It's the same thing. So they've spent a lot of time building these games like Dragon Ball Xenoverse and Dragon Ball Heroes, but they had no way to connect the old Dragon Ball series because Goku, at the end of Dragon Ball Z, flew off with Oob and he was too overpowered. And at the end of GT, he was Super Saiyan 4 and he was overpowered, so he had no enemies. By rolling it back and like introducing all of these new elements like gods, angels, new aliens, new power levels and stuff like that, and the introduction of Xeno-sama, who's probably going to be killed off to like create Xenoverse, then this gives them a doorway that leads right into Dragon Ball Xenoverse and right into Dragon Ball Heroes, which are very similar. So this, I think, they specifically created Dragon Ball Super as a way to cross over into their new product lines, right? Which, you know, is exactly what I would do. I'm a comic creator. I have my own expanded universe of like martial arts action characters. And if you're interested in that, you can check that out in the bottom of the link that I'm going to put at the bottom of this video. So, but from a creative perspective or marketing perspective, this is the way to go, because other than that, Dragon Ball would have been dead and there would be no way to revive it. So that is my theory, and I honestly believe that I'm 95% correct with this assumption that Dragon Ball Super is going to lead into Dragon Ball Xenoverse. You can disagree with me, you can argue with me, like let's go ahead and throw this out and debate it online, because I'm really interested to see what people think about this theory. So I know this video is kind of long because like I got caught up in the explanation, but here's the overview of it. Okay, so we've got Xeno-sama, whose name is basically synonymous with Xenoverse. He's the god of destruction. He cannot create, and there's two of him in the universe when there should only be one. We have the priest, the grand priest, who seems to be the opposite of Xeno-sama, who can create, and who seems to have a sinister plan with the rest of the angels. We have Whis, who is training Goku and Vegeta for some reason, even though he shouldn't be, probably to fight against his father later. We have Future Trunks, who has traveled to a future that doesn't exist anymore, because Xeno wiped it when he got rid of Zamasu. So him and Mai have become the Adam and Eve of this new empty universe, where that is very reminiscent of the Time Vault in Dragon Ball Xenoverse. We have the fact that Trunks is wearing basically Whis' colors. We also have the take a look at Goku, because Goku is also wearing Whis' colors, which means that he's probably been trained by an angel because he's wearing the colors. Also, the fact that everybody in Xenoverse is trying to kill Goku for some reason, probably because he became too strong and is able to stop the Grand Priest's plan. And also, when you compare it to Dragon Ball Super, people are already considering him to be a danger because of his current attitude and his power level, right? And then also the marketing perspective, where Dragon Ball Z was dead, Dragon Ball GT was dead. They needed to retcon that in order to like introduce their new product lines, Dragon Ball Xenoverse and Dragon Ball Heroes. So the creation of Dragon Ball Super with the introduction of the gods, new characters, new power levels for old characters, new universes to like explore and blow up, would be a logical step for them to connect Dragon Ball Z, the old Dragon Ball Z, and the new Dragon Ball Xenoverse and Dragon Ball Heroes, which is like better for marketing, and that's exactly what I would have done. So, like I said, if you like this video, or if you agree with me, like, put it in the comments. If you like this video, like, subscribe, and, you know, check out my Indiegogo campaign, where I am also creating my own expanded universe, and I'll put more about that in the description below. But if you like martial arts, action, and Dragon Ball type anime, you're going to love my series. So check that out, and that's it for this video. So post it up online, talk to me, let me know what you think, and if you have a good counter argument or if you can debunk any of this, I am dying to hear from you, because like I think I'm pretty on point with this. So I'm going to stick with this argument until somebody proves me wrong. All right, that's it for tonight, and I will catch you guys later.